I remember being a teenage girl looking at myself in the mirror, wondering if I'd feel this miserable about my body for the rest of my life. Wondering if I'd be brought to tears every time I saw my reflection staring back at me. I remember watching makeover shows on television that taught me how to look at my body as a collection of problem areas that could and should be fixed, rather than a human being that deserved love and respect. I learned very quickly that according to society, the only way to be happy is to spend my life chasing the perfect body. I remember looking at weight loss ads, asking myself, maybe if I just be a little bit skinnier, will I finally feel good enough? After all, nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, right? You see, I grew up in the 90s, the heroin chic era in which it was considered perfectly normal to drink liters of water to still your hunger and chew gum or even cotton pads instead of eating actual food. Starving yourself into a size 0 was considered an accomplishment you could be proud of back then. It still is sometimes. And believe me, I tried. I tried so hard I ended up across a psychotherapist that told me if I continued like that, they'd end up carrying me into an eating disorder clinic in a wheelchair. So where was the happiness they promised me I'd feel when I'd be skinny? It wasn't there. But maybe if my nose would just be a little bit smaller, my face a little bit wider, my chin a little less pointy, or my eyes a little bit bigger. Maybe I'd feel good enough then. I'd finally find the happiness they told me I would find when I'd be beautiful. Or maybe not. It took me over 10 years to realize that my body was not the problem. My body has never been the problem. Our bodies are not the problem. Society is. I am Gudrun, a psychologist, weight-neutral personal trainer and author from Belgium, and I've made it my life's mission to teach you how to love yourself a little more, so you wouldn't have to take as long as I did to learn how to love your body. Today I'm going to talk to you about feeling good enough in a society that obviously profits from our self-doubt. So let me take you on a little trip to history. It is over 500 years ago that society decided to lace up women into corsets and literally take away our ability to breathe freely. In the 60s, they sold us tapeworms and cigarettes, all for the sake of losing weight. It's 2022 and you would have hoped it would be better by now. And some people are in the illusion that it became better when the Kate Moss ideal was replaced by the Kim Kardashian ideal. Yay, women can have curves again, they say. But let's be honest, we can only have curves if they're exactly in the right places, and instead of just starving ourselves like we had to do before, we now have to starve ourselves while we work our ass off at the gym to grow our ass back that we lost because we're starving ourselves. And we have to run to the plastic surgeon for bigger boobs because it's practically impossible to have zero fat and still have boobs. So instead of the ideal improving to a more curvier ideal, it actually just made us work even harder to get there. You see, beauty ideals are from all centuries. And they're an ideal just because they're supposed to be difficult to attain. They're not supposed to be the norm. Because if everyone looked like the ideal, it wouldn't be an ideal anymore. Hundreds of years ago, when food was sparse, being fat was considered the ultimate good. Now, in our Western world, food is in abundance and always readily available, so the ideal changed to size 0. So what's so different now? If beauty ideals have always been there and have always been difficult to achieve, what changed that made the burden for women so incredibly heavy today? There are two factors that changed the game completely, in my opinion: advertising and social media. First of all, let us take a closer look at how advertisements work. Research shows an inverse correlation between the advertising spend in countries and the happiness of its citizens. The more money a country spends on advertising, the less satisfied its citizens were 1 year later. So before I explain to you why this is completely logical, ask yourself this question. If you want to sell something to anyone, what could you do to increase the chance of someone buying your product? First of all, you want to make people believe they'll be happier when they buy your product. You don't just sell people weight loss products, no, you sell people the idea that they'll feel better when they lose weight. Everyone wants to buy happiness. Second of all, you want to make people believe their worth as a human being increases when they buy your product. They don't just sell you anti-wrinkle products, they sell you the idea that you're better or more worthy without the wrinkles. But it doesn't even stop there. If you want to sell people the idea that they'll be happier when they buy your product, they first have to believe they can't be happy when they don't buy it. Think about it. How many weight loss ads have you seen that start with someone fat and terribly unhappy that magically turns into a bright and smiley person when they lose weight? Right, a lot. They don't just sell you the idea of being skinny and happy. They also try to condition you into thinking that being fat and happy isn't possible. They don't just sell you anti-cellulite cream, no, they first have to make you feel like you're not good enough if you have cellulite. And then they offer you the solution for it. Advertisements are literally designed to make you feel like you lack something, like you're not good enough just as you are. After all, think about this. Who can sell you something if you think you already have everything that you need and you already are good enough just the way you are? Companies literally profit from the fact that you keep doubting yourself. Knowing that, it's no surprise that with the exponential rise in the amount of ads we see every single day, up to 10,000 advertisements a day, came a permanent feeling of not feeling good enough on the side. But it goes even further than that. I don't know if you noticed the amount of words like easy, fast, effortlessly, and so on in advertisements. Decades ago, there was a beauty ideal too, but people knew it was difficult to attain. They knew it wasn't for everyone. But right now, they constantly try to sell you the idea that looking like the ideal is easy, and that if you don't look like the ideal, it's your fault for not putting in enough time, money, or effort. Not to mention the fact that so many products that they sell us don't even work. But they're an expert in making you feel like the fact that their product didn't work is your fault and not theirs. So there we are, haunted by a permanent feeling of not being good enough, with some guilt on the side because we think it's our fault that we feel this way. And on top of that, they threw social media in the mix. Besides an exponential rise in advertisements, over the last 10 years, an extremely rapid rise in the use of picture and video-based social media added some extra fuel to the fire. Where my grandparents were only confronted with images of ideals on television and in magazines, but mostly spent their time with real people, real flawed people with imperfect bodies. Our smartphone, that tends to be glued to the hands of people in modern society, offers us a constant stream of perfectly posed, perfectly edited pictures and videos of people that resemble the beauty ideal a lot more in their pictures or videos than they do in actual real life. And that's normal. Everyone wants to look their best in a picture. We used to put on our best outfits and best smile for our school picture too when we were younger. But the problem with all of this is that a lot of people, and certainly teenagers, spend so much time online that this alternate picture-perfect virtual reality turns into their actual reality. A reality in which 91% of young girls edit their picture before they post it online. A reality in which you're always just one filter away from having flawless skin, perfect cheekbones or plump lips. A reality in which it has become incredibly easy to alter the shape of your body in under 5 seconds, even in video content. And it is approximately 2 years ago that I noticed myself getting more and more insecure about my own face without makeup when I looked in the mirror. I almost never wore makeup at that time. I had always been pretty okay with it, but then I felt like all of it changed when Instagram introduced filters for stories. I didn't even realize why I was feeling like wearing more and more makeup until one day I looked in the mirror and I thought, damn, today is not my day. 5 minutes later, I posted an Instagram story of myself with a pretty filter on it, and someone commented, "Wow, you look so good today." And I suddenly realized this is what's causing me to feel miserable about my face. I was always using this sun-kissed Bali filter on my Instagram stories that made it look like I had a perfect tan, perfect skin, a healthy blush, and bright and shiny eyes. It made me look amazing. Except it made me feel like shit when I looked in an actual mirror and saw my actual face. And the more I used filters, the less satisfied I became with my actual face. Research also backs this up. The more you edit your own pictures on social media, the more dissatisfied you become with how you actually look in real life. It even sometimes leads to social isolation because people don't even dare to meet up with actual people anymore, afraid to show their real faces without filters. Lately, even plastic surgeons notice a trend that instead of people coming to them wanting to look like celebrities, they come to them with a picture of their own face with a filter over it, wanting to look like that in real life too. And it scares me. It scares me to think about the fact that I felt miserable about myself growing up, and social media didn't even exist back then. And now I see more and more TikTokers promoting plastic surgery like it's the same thing as a new mascara, and I'm wondering, where is this going to end? Where are we going with this? What's the next thing they'll add to this already absurd beauty standard? So how do you do it? Feeling good enough in this world that's obviously designed to make you feel like you're not. First of all, I think it's very important to realize that the solution doesn't lie in spending your life chasing this unattainable beauty standard, because the more time, money, and energy you spend on chasing this ideal, the less time, money, and energy you'll have left to do the things that will actually truly make you happy. Ask yourself this. How many things have you bought or done in the past, all for the sake of beauty, that you thought would make you happy, that you thought would make you feel good enough? And did they? Did they truly bring you the happiness they promised? Next time you see an ad popping up, instead of blindly buying into it, ask yourself, do I really need this? Or are they trying to make me believe that I do? Secondly, it's very important to be conscious of how you use social media. Limit the time you spend on social media and spend more time in the actual world offline with real, flawed people. And realize that every time you edit your own pictures, you say to yourself that the original, the real you, isn't good enough. Take your own responsibility in being kind to yourself by refraining from editing your pictures too much or using too many filters. And last but not least, realize that you have always been and will always be good enough. It's just society that tries to make you believe you're not, so they can make money out of you. After all, in a society that profits from your self-doubt, liking yourself is a rebellious act. Thank you for listening.